Welcome to Mastery of Writing the Personal Narrative. Lesson 5, Video 3. This is the third of 4 lectures on writing paragraphs. In the first video, we talked about what makes a paragraph a paragraph. In the second lecture, we talked about writing a descriptive paragraph. And this third lecture is about how a writer handles a comparative paragraph. You want to look for the techniques that writers use when they write paragraphs that compare two things to enhance the reader's understanding of an idea. Make sure to take good notes. And as with every video, at the end, you will be asked to submit a question for inquiry. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to write a comparative paragraph that presents a comparison of two items to a reader with clarity and straightforwardness. There are several ways that your instructor might help you after you watch this lecture. After the initial inquiry session, he or she might have you form a group of sentences into a comparative paragraph with the help of some of your classmates. You might do some research on the composition of a comparative paragraph. Or you might be asked to write a comparative paragraph. So be prepared. Watch this video and watch it again if you don't understand everything the first time that you see it. Are you ready? Okay. What is a comparative paragraph? Remember that a paragraph is a collection of related sentences dealing with a single topic. How does this definition of a paragraph apply to a comparative paragraph? A well-written comparative paragraph is a collection of sentences that compares two objects using comparative word choices and writing techniques. A well-written comparative paragraph will conform to the central principle and the 4 characteristics of a paragraph. It will have a topic sentence. It will also have sufficient development of details. It will have unity, and it will have expressiveness. We will deconstruct these 4 characteristics of a paragraph to see how they apply to a comparative paragraph. Remember the writer's toolbox? We started with basic tools, and today we're going to enhance our toolbox with even more specialized writing tools. Before we examine the tools in our writer's toolbox, let's make sure that we know what a comparative paragraph is. A comparative paragraph compares two objects. For instance, a writer could compare positions on an issue, like responses to gun laws in Canada and the United States, facts, like the percentage of the population that is unemployed in Hawaii and Iowa, events, like the Great Depression of the 1930s and the Great Recession that started in 2008. And let's see how writers use the 4 characteristics of a paragraph when writing a comparative paragraph. The topic sentence tells the reader what the writer is going to compare in a comparative paragraph. It needs to begin with a clear statement of the writer's intent. For instance, a writer could start with a sentence like, "The inside of the house was a lot like my house." Do you have any doubt what to expect in this paragraph? Is the writer's intent clearly stated in this topic sentence? What subjects are going to be compared? The houses, right? So let's move on to see how a writer develops the details in a comparative paragraph. To make sure you are developing the details of your comparative paragraph effectively, make sure to use words that signal comparison. Here's a small list of comparison words, as well as, also, to, like, much as, similar to, and both. There is an extensive list of comparison words in the material folder for the comparative paragraphs. You want to see an example of a comparative paragraph? The inside of the house was a lot like my house. There was a row of hooks on the wall by the front door for everybody's outside clothes, just like at my house. Also, the living room had the same kind of chairs my mom had, the kind kids aren't supposed to sit in. There was a fireplace just like the one my dad used for burning mail at my house. Main radio was in the living room just like at my house. And there was no TV in the living room just like my house too.
It was a room for living and a cave for hiding. Is there sufficient development of detail? Look for comparison words. Just like at my house. Also. Just like again and again and again. Normally, a writer doesn't want to be so repetitive, but this writer is writing from a 4-year-old's point of view, so we're going to give him a break. What about unity? A comparative paragraph must have focus, staying with the subjects being compared. What subjects are being compared in this paragraph? 2 houses. Does the writer stay on track? What do you think? It's pretty good. You could say that burning mail is off topic, and I wouldn't disagree, but the paragraph isn't bad. It compares 2 houses from the point of view of our 4-year-old, and the development of details is sufficient for the most part. The 4th characteristic of a paragraph is expressiveness, making a paragraph easy and fun to read. To do this, writers often use metaphors and similes to express comparisons. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is a comparison of 2 subjects that have qualities in common. When a writer relates these common qualities, he or she is providing a word picture for the reader that is called a metaphor. Where's the metaphor in this paragraph? Do you see it? It's right here. It was a room for living and a cave for hiding. Could a living room be an actual cave? Only for the Flintstones. The writer uses a metaphor to end this paragraph. It's a metaphor that also ends a pattern he started. The pattern before the last sentence was a comparison of the 2 houses. Using this metaphor, what does the last sentence imply? I'll let you think about that one. What is a simile? It's basically the same thing as a metaphor in that a simile compares 2 objects or actions. There is, however, a very important difference between a simile and a metaphor. Where a metaphor creates an indirect comparison, a simile creates a much more direct relationship because it includes comparison words. Could the writer use a simile instead of a metaphor for that last sentence? Sure. He could have written something like, "The living room was like a cave you could hide in." Simply writer's choice. What word makes this a simile instead of a metaphor? The word you're looking for is like. That's the word that sets up the simile. Like is not the only word that is used for a simile. You can use any of the comparison words we talked about earlier to set up a simile. If you didn't write them down, you can find the list in the materials folder for the comparative paragraph.
That's it. Everything you need to know about writing a comparative paragraph. Your instructor will give you plenty of opportunities to practice your comparative writing skills. Make sure you are there and that you take advantage of every writing opportunity that is afforded you. And remember,
work hard and have fun.